Time's up.
Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency for Tuesday, May the 16th, 2017 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
The minutes will reflect all council members present.
Thank you. Invocation, Pastor Tom Charlton, First Full Gospel Church.
Mayor, council members, yes, let's bow our heads and ask the Lord's blessing. Precious Heavenly Father, we're so thankful tonight to be able to have the freedom to come together and run our city using the people from the city, their input. We thank you, Lord, for giving us this privilege as we recognize many countries, many cities around the world don't have this privilege. So we ask you for you to guide us tonight in the things that are said and the things that are done, that they would be pleasing to you, because then it will be pleasing to us. We ask your blessing upon this meeting. We ask it in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Sure, I'll lead us in the pledge. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, item number 1 on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, and a second. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 2 is our public appearances and comments, not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Is there anybody from the public that would like to come forward and present anything to us? Okay, if not, then I will go to item 2A, which is recognition of our outgoing police chief, Michael Crankshaw, and introduction of interim police chief, Kelly Brown. With that, I would just like to say that I've enjoyed working with Chief Crankshaw in the time that he's been here at the city of Brawley. He's been here approximately 3.5 years. I would say that it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a privilege, and I think an honor to have you as our police chief. I think the essence of a community is when people.
I think that says it all there, Chief.
Right? There you go, Chief.
I'm sorry, Chief.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I think the essence of a community is how the people view our police department, how they respond to the officers and all of that. And I think all of that comes from the leadership that's provided by the chief. And I think you've done a great job with that. I've seen it on a personal level. I've seen it on a professional level. And I applaud you for that. I think it's with, we offer you congratulations on your retirement, but also there's some sadness on our part to see you leave, to see you go. And but we know that the police department will be in good hands with interim Chief Brown. So we're looking for that. And but we want to say thank you to you for all of your service to the city of Brawley. And we know your family is here tonight. I think you're married, you have 5 children, your wife Christina, 5 children and 4, I think, grandchildren, is that correct?
Grandboys, all boys.
I think there's only 3 here tonight, but there's 1 at home, I think, but that's the younger one, I think, right? Right, okay. And so I just want to say, though, from a personal level, that I do appreciate everything you've done for the city of Brawley in your time here. And I expect great things from the police department, and I expect them to continue your leadership and what you've done for us here in the city of Brawley. And with that, I say congratulations to you, Chief. I'd like to offer to each of the council members, I'm sure, would like to state something.
Absolutely. Can't let you go without me saying something about you. I know that I've been, every once in a while, it's a little pesty, asking for some information about my own personal stuff, and you've always been there for me, and I'm going to miss that big
big time. So please, Chief Brown, remember that. It's going to be your turn. But I know you'll be just as warm and caring as the chief here. It's been a time coming that every time it comes, in fact, I said something to your wife today. I said, 3 times is a charm. You know, in other words, you can come back one more time. But I know. I want to congratulate you on your retirement, and I know that you're looking forward to it, and so is your wife. So God's blessing be with you always, and with your family, and with all the grandkids. Have fun.
Thank you.
She can't talk
I
about
I have to apologize today for my voice. So I'm going to have to talk into the microphone. Chief, I have really thoroughly enjoyed working with you. I've only known you for a year and a half, so I wish you were actually staying longer, because I really feel that you've done a very outstanding professional job with our Brawley Police Department. I wanted to commend you for the training and development that you've done for the staff and with all the new police officers that come in. And I also want to commend you for the relationship that you've established, both with our city council, with all of us, and with the community. You are very visible out there. I see you at all the events, and people like you. You're approachable, and I feel that whenever I had any kind of question, you were always very responsive. And I would just like to say that the major thing I'd like to thank you for is for keeping our city, the city of Brawley, safe for all of us, for people that visit, for people that move to the city of Brawley, and for all the population in our community. Thank you so much. Congratulations and good luck.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ooh. You did great, actually, with the voice. This is a little bit difficult for me because I've known the chief for a lot of years. Actually, almost as many years as I've been in the Valley. And you've been the same leader of people that certainly led the classroom I was involved in almost 20 years ago. This is a little more difficult for me. I think in some ways, being here today, when I saw you on the agenda, and I kept thinking maybe it won't be on there, maybe one more, a council meeting or whatnot. But I can definitely say that what is absolutely just fulfilling for me as a friend, as a person, as a professional, Mike, is that you're the same person in that uniform, not in that uniform, with the beauty of your family and the support and the kind of kids you've raised and grandkids you've raised and then leading the fine. We're very, very proud of our department, as you know, and I think our department's in a better place today than it was 3 years ago. And I have no shame in saying that in public. I'm very proud of that, as a matter of fact. So that's why it's so difficult, for us. And but at the same time, could not wish you more abundance and happiness that you have worked so hard for so many years. And love your family, your in-laws, everyone. Of course, Christine, your beautiful, lovely wife. The best years are still ahead of you. So God bless, and just know, City of Brawley will always be there. You're always part of our family.
Thank you.
Chief, well, thank you very much for your leadership in the City of Brawley. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. I consider you a professional colleague and a personal friend. I hope you see me the same way. And I really appreciate what you've done for our city. Just a few years ago, we met for the first time, and I got to know you, and I knew you were the right person for the position here. I think your leadership has helped build the department. We've had some new faces and people develop, and we've seen the department improve in the time that you've been here. But you've also proven to me that you're a dedicated, not just official for the city, but a family man, a dedicated person and a friend that I see that you have at your family and your children, and you're very proud of them, and that has always impressed me about you. So I know you're retiring and you're moving on to something different in life, and I congratulate you for that, but I want to personally thank you for the work that you've done for us and for the fact that you've made a commitment even to move to the city of Brawley during a period of time and relocate your family out here. And so that takes a big commitment, not just from you, but I also want to thank your family for that commitment and making that move and having your son come to a local school here in the city of Brawley. So that's a big change in your life, and it took a lot of, I'm sure, convincing to be able to do that. So thank you for the commitment that you've made to us. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your friendship. I congratulate you, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much.
Wait just a moment. Would the city manager like to say anything?
Sure. Chief Crankshaw, it's been such a pleasure to work with you for many reasons, but probably the most important is the chance to have a partner in a leadership position at the PD, which is such an important part of our array of city services. The professional dialogue that's been part of departments working together for the same cause, it is a model that I hope we can continue to embrace in the future. The good humor you bring to some very, very challenging times is just a very welcome aspect of the professional work you bring here. I know I'm speaking for all of our staff when I say it has been a wonderful 3+ years working with you, finding ways to work together, to collaborate, to work within some pretty challenging times. And you remind all of us how important it is to recognize that human beings are behind our badges. And we have some incredible talent here. When we have the leadership to harness it, great things are possible. You have earned 30 years of service. I want to thank your family for sharing you. Not only with Brawley, but with Imperial Valley. We're so fortunate for the time we've had with Chief Crankshaw. And it's been just an awesome experience working with you. I wish you much health, happiness, great adventure. I hope you have some fun with a few less things on your mind as it pertains to the safety of 25,000 people. So I hope having some of those responsibilities passed on to the shoulders of Kelly Brown helps you sleep well at night. And I wish you great rest and relaxation.
It's his sleep I'm worried about.
Okay. Chief, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, absolutely. It has been just a wonderful opportunity to come here and lead this department. Working in Brawley has been a great experience in my life. Working with the caliber of folks that we have here in Brawley is it's just been amazing. I didn't realize it would touch me like that. I have to be honest, so the real reason I came to Brawley is so my son could play Wildcat football. Right on.
Yay! Good reason.
It was a very good reason. And, I had the opportunity to speak with my son recently, and I asked him about our decision as a whole, as a family, to come to Brawley, and he just said, you know what, I couldn't imagine not going to Brawley. It was a great experience in his life. I'd like to thank my family, my daughters, my in-laws, my son-in-law, my grandsons, that I think that my daughters are thinking I might have a lot of time for.
They do.
Yes, I will. I especially like to thank my wife, who has stood by me the whole time. So that's always a...
Thank you. Thank you.
One for you,
Quick, Helen.
and one for you.
Quick, Helen, do your phone.
Turned it on.
With that, I know that the department is in good hands. We have some folks stepping up who are going to assume some roles. I'm about to introduce the interim, Commander Kelly Brown. I'd like to thank Commander Brett Hauser. He has been instrumental during my time in transition here. Sergeant Blackstone is going to take over the interim as the commander, and this is going to be a trio team, but it always seems like I had like 4 positions to fill, and it only took me 18 bodies to do it. So, but one of the things that I think that we collectively look at as we're just a portion of the success of the city of Brawley. The police department, the fire department, which I do have to thank my partner in crime over there as far as public safety, Chuck Peraza. I'm not half as humorous as he is.
But you carry a gun, Chief, so it makes up for it.
It does cause people to laugh at my jokes. But to understand the bigger dynamic of what the police department's role is, and to understand that we need to know that the stakeholders are first in our community, and that's who we work for. It is very easy to become callous and cynical and dealing with 3% of a population that commits crime, but it's a constant reminder that we're always striving to remember the 97% that's doing exactly what they're supposed to do and want the police department to do the same. So we've hired nothing but good characters and good hearts, and now they're turning into good badges. And I'm very proud of our police department, both sworn and non-sworn. And I do have to say I'd be very remiss not to personally thank my assistant, who is Karen Farnese. Probably out of everyone, that she's had to put up with me more. And thank you. I'd like to turn it over to interim police chief Kelly Brown.
Okay.
Your shadow.
So I won't speak as long as Chief did. One of the common themes that we talk about is our people. And I think Chief hit the nail on the head when he talked about we have the right people in the right places. Obviously, there's going to be a void that I will do my very best to fill, but I'm very fortunate to have the support of my command staff as well as my supervisors and officers. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you guys, but most importantly, thank everybody in the crowd, our citizens, for allowing me this opportunity to lead the police department. Thank you.
We have some presentations, so if the chief will be there, and if the council will join me,
Sure.
we'll go down there.
Did you want to present them with
Okay, it's my task as the mayor, my honor, to present you with your badge of retirement from the Brawley Police Department as the chief. That is your retirement badge. On behalf of the council.
Let's see it, let's see it.
Let's see it. Hold it up for the picture.
Christina?
For all the time that I know you've given up to us, that it's me.
Get in the center here, the two in the center.
That's also from Mother's Day.
No wonder you wanted to, Chief, you wanted to do the ceremony on Sunday.
We'd like to give an opportunity opportunity for your family to come up and take some pictures with you if you'd like, so please feel free to take some time to do that.
I'll get yours.
Thank you for everything.
Here, did you want me to?
We're not done yet. Yes.
Congratulations and good luck with your honeydews.
The other thing too.
Shirley, will you send them to me?
Of course, sweetheart. I got you covered. Hey, can we squish? Squish, squish, squish.
You guys like each other, remember?
Your family,
Got
remember?
a squish in there.
Come this way, boys. Yay. Hang on, hang on.
Very
I'm a
nice
little slow on the
smile,
uptake.
very nice smile.
Oh,
no.
Oh, there it is.
Look
Yes, I
forward,
heard you.
look forward.
Nothing like
Yeah.
the finance sister in the back.
You okay?
Oh, there it goes.
You okay? Just can't speak. Yes. Okay. You got your back? Because I'll run off with it.
Very nice, very nice.
Saying I'm the chief.
It says it already.
Okay. All right, very nice.
Mayor Catchman, if I may just make one final comment.
Sure.
Want to extend my thanks to now interim Police Chief Kelly Brown, as well as our interim police commander, now Sergeant Blackstone, soon to be commander. And looking forward to working both of you in these new capacities. And Commander Hauser, looking forward to continuing the great work with you as well. So I appreciate you being here tonight to celebrate this occasion with the city.
Can we get a photo with the chiefs and
Sure. That's a great
Yeah,
idea.
sure. We also should probably recognize Agent Green, who's going to become an interim sergeant under this reorganization that we're undergoing right now.
There you go.
I don't think he's here, but
We'll duck out.
Very nice.
yeah, we'll get out of here.
Hey.
We'll throw her in there.
There we go. You guys, everybody else?
Find the discrimination in the.
That's
We gotta get everybody else.
This is all, bro.
Oh, I got a good one, Chief laughing. Chief laughing at Chief.
Blackstone, congratulations.
Yes. Very nice. All right. Okay.
Yeah. I think give him a moment.
Give him a moment.
The chief doesn't need to stick around anymore. He's like, I'm out of here. Look at
No,
this.
you're
Right
right.
away. He's like,
Yeah, there you go.
take care, thank you.
This is the handoff.
I know, right? Hand off, hey, hand off the agenda to him, be like, we're right here, here. We're right here. Right? Yeah. Chief.
All right, we're looking good.
It'll be on social
Thank you,
media.
everybody. Have a
Take
good
care.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Come in.
What are you doing? No.
What do we got? Oh. I'm not tall enough.
No, you could be right here.
George, there you
I'm
go.
not sure about this.
All right. There's 3 different
I was gonna tell.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
You're like, we're right here. We're right here.
Thank you, Chief.
See you later, chief.
Enjoy your night, chief. Thank you.
I'm hoping to get a free dinner out of this.
You might, yeah.
We're hoping to put you back on the reserve, like some of the other officers that are retired, so we have you working for free. Okay, any other public appearances? Last opportunity? If not, we'll move on to item number 3, our consent agenda. Items are approved in one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second the
Okay,
motion
I have a
to
second.
approve the consent as written.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Okay, and now we'll go to item number 4, which is a public hearing. It's an annual review of the City of Brawley utility users tax. And that's on page 91 of your agenda, and I'm assuming we just opened the public hearing? Okay, we'll do that. Ruby?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ruby Walla, Finance Director. This item tonight for the public hearing is regarding the utility users tax, the annual public hearing required by our city ordinance, which calls for us to open a public hearing on utility user tax just for update and review prior to budget adoption. Our current utility user tax in general, the purpose of the utility user tax is to raise revenues for the general governmental purposes of the city. All of the proceeds from the utility user tax imposed shall be placed in the city's general fund. The tax levied is on the utility services of telephone, electricity, gas, water, sewer, trash, and cable television. The current tax imposed on these utilities is 4%. This utility users tax was voter approved on November 8th, 2011, which is due to expire May 31st, 2018. These are active discussions that we've had during our current budget process, highlighting the expiration of the utility user tax and proposing or contemplating renewal in the upcoming election in November. To highlight the budgeted utility user tax revenues currently is at 1.9 million. As proposed in the budget discussions, we are recommending to continue the utility user tax at the same rate. As projections look, as we're honing into actuals, we may be slightly under based on activity under the current projections. And so that's why we're moving forward with the 1.9 million, which is about 13% of our general fund revenues overall for the city of Brawley's general fund. And I'd open up for any questions or comments or questions from the public.
Any questions from the council? Okay. Any questions from the public? Anybody want to come forward, have any questions? Okay. If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We don't vote on anything, right? It's just, we just close the hearing and then we're done. All right. So we'll close that hearing and move forward to the next item. The next item is item number 5, regular business. And 5A is discussion and staff direction regarding general fund budget assumptions revisited. Rosanna?
Thank you, Mayor Couchman and members of the council, as well as our public here today. It's great to see a full room, especially when we're having budget discussions, because it's a great way to get up to speed on current issues and the manner in which topics have developed through the public workshop format. So what we're doing tonight is revisiting feedback that we received from the City Council with reference to the general fund. So specifically, the general fund only for today's discussion. And what we hope to do is talk about the direction that we received in early April, update the council and community on the efforts that we undertook based on the direction provided, and get feedback. Are we on track as we begin to package the final budget for council action in late June? So the big picture for the city's financial outlook has many, many moving parts. Kind of as a rule of thumb and a reminder, the two funds that currently maybe are most challenged are the general fund and the water enterprise fund. A significant portion of the utility user tax revenues are part of the general fund. It represents between 13% and 15%. And our utility user tax is scheduled to expire in May of 2018. So as we move forward, we will have an item for council consideration in the future regarding the renewal of the utility user tax, and a future ballot initiative that may be placed on the November ballot to address renewal that would follow the May 2018 expiration. Following our workshop, we went through another round of extensive review of all of the cost centers that depend on the general fund. We tried our best to keep in mind that the city would like to provide the highest level of service possible to our residents and businesses. So the balance is in ensuring that we can provide that service within our fiscal means. Recognizing that in May, we have the expiration of the utility user tax, we are following a path that we've been on in prior exercises where the utility user tax was scheduled to expire. We are looking at things like attrition as a way to address potential savings. So whenever possible, if there is a retirement or a vacancy that is identified, we try our very best to try to work within those means of a vacancy so that when this answer to the utility user tax is reached, we have the most organizational flexibility possible. Now, you'll see in a future slide that we were largely able to accomplish that, but unfortunately not in all of our cost centers. And our hope is for this next fiscal year to identify a bridge. And what is contained in tonight's presentation is a bridge for really what's a operational revenues and operational expenditures gap, not necessarily a deficit that we're experiencing. Okay, so at the last workshop, the number we were focused on was approximately $850,000. It was this difference between revenues and expenditures. So as explained, we went back through all of our cost centers. We were able to shrink it by a little more than 50%. And our final resting place for that value we now need to bridge after implementing all of these changes and assumptions is approximately $400,000. And that's assuming the one of two remaining regional board payments. So we know those payments aren't going to be continuing forever, but for the next 2 years, these are our obligations as they pertain to a settlement reached with the regional board. So if you look just at operations and operational revenues and deficits, not these payments, really the bridge is $260, a little less than $260. Okay, so how did we bridge this difference? How did we achieve the reduction? Per council direction, we moved forward with assuming our target date of accomplishment of July 1, 2017, for the side fund debt restructuring. Many members of our public, some here this evening, have inquired about a number of public notices that have occurred, and we have used it as a chance to get everyone up to speed on a new financing approach that will pay off CalPERS for the side fund amount and create a different instrument. And as a result of that, we aim to achieve approximately $300,000 overall to the city. $190,000 of the $300,000 is what the general fund will experience. And as of this evening, I am very proud to report that we are on target to accomplish before the end of the fiscal year and thankfully experience these savings beginning with the new fiscal year. Want to also outline that several departments in going through things like fuel cost projections and studies that were required as a part of this fiscal year that may have been carried into next fiscal year. Everywhere we could make a reasonable, well-reasoned cut. We supported it with backup documentation, and we were able to achieve reductions of general fund reliance by $85,000 in the police department, $25,000 in personnel, $15,000 in planning, and approximately $20,800 in parks and recreation. And those are items that are separate and apart from any related staffing issues. These are other line items in the budgets that we were able to reduce. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the various department restructuring proposals, but those were identified for the police department, Parks and Recreation, and the library. So this is generally how we have approached this bridge for the next fiscal year. The restructuring of debt, department level line item reductions, and some department restructuring for the next 12 months. Okay, so how did we get there? From a department restructuring point of view, what we assume in the next fiscal year is that we will have an interim police chief configuration. As council is well aware, the city has undertaken 2 recruitment efforts to fill the police chief position. Those efforts have not resulted in candidates on a going forward basis. So we know for the moment we have used very well-known publications to address our opening. Many recruitments are currently going on, both in our valley and outside of the valley. So what we are proposing for the next fiscal year is this interim police chief configuration. And as you can see from some of our attendees this evening, that will result in an existing police commander being elevated to an interim police chief, an existing sergeant elevating for 1 year into an interim commander, and an existing police agent functioning in the role of an interim sergeant for a 12-month period. Now, what that ultimately does, it creates a short-term arrangement, and it creates a hole at the bottom, or a vacancy at the bottom. We are choosing not to fill that bottom role. So the balance of supervisory responsibilities is still there. We accomplish it in the same form of the roles identified, but the place that it creates the vacancy, we do not assume a backfill. Okay.
And is that how the savings was quantified with that?
With the backfill position,
Yeah.
right. And so we're going to move on to Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation, there are 2 major features that are assumed in the numbers as they're presented this evening. The first is we are expecting the retirement of our Parks and Rec director. And that is likely to take place before the end of this calendar year. So what we assumed on a moving forward basis is that as of January 1, so January through June, we aren't going to fill the director position. Instead, we're going to assign the responsibilities for oversight to another department head. And the current proposal, based on skills and abilities and workload, is to have our finance director provide fiscal oversight and management oversight of Parks and Recreation. This is a temporary arrangement. I want to make sure that I share with council there's a great deal of workload associated both with the monthly, weekly, daily tasks of the finance department, as well as the 7-day, 12-plus hour a day involvement of Parks and Rec facilities. So while this isn't a perfect arrangement, it's one that I am proposing as a part of the budget because it can bridge us for 6 months while we get an answer to the utility user tax, and we can be flexible about what a future configuration could look like in the event that the utility user tax is not successful. So again, the budget numbers for Parks and Rec assume a 6-month director in place and a 6-month director not in place. Also a part of that arrangement is proposed a parks coordinator role. You may recall when Karen Morgan, Pat Dorsey, and Richard Rubio occupied the supervisory roles within Parks and Recreation. At that time, the roles were defined as director, parks supervisor, and rec supervisor. And then there was one lead person on the facilities end of the universe and one lead person on the parks end of the universe, and various maintenance workers assigned to each of those units. Due to budget constraints, following the retirement of Karen Morgan, the department was reconfigured to using one of the supervisors to serve in a director role and maintaining one of the positions, which was Pat Dorsey in her former supervisor role. And then when Richard Rubio retired, Pat Dorsey moved into the role of director. We created a Parks and Rec coordinator. It's not at the same rate of pay as the supervisor roles were in prior years, but it's a coordinating function. As it stands today, we have a director, a coordinator, and lead persons along with maintenance workers that support lead persons. What is proposed in this bridge, and it is interim, it's not a permanent arrangement, is for the 6 months that remain in the fiscal year after Pat Dorsey's retirement, that we have this interim assignment of director responsibilities, and we create an interim assignment for a parks coordinator role, which then can peel off from Linda Self, who's functioning as responsible for both areas, Parks and Rec, instead have a parks coordinator and a rec coordinator. The rec coordinator would continue on in the fashion as is, programming, scheduling, park usage, interfacing with various stakeholders. The park coordinator would be responsible for park-based maintenance-related activities. So this is a proposal at this point, and I want to make sure that council understands that that bridge that we make reference to, the $258,307, is assuming that this is the configuration for the second 6 months of the fiscal year till we get an answer on the utility user tax. The upside of the arrangement is we don't have to reduce staffing levels in a way that affects existing employees. So that's a positive, and we still have a chance to maintain the level of service as high as we can without a director role filled.
So when you talk about interim, what is the savings in those 6 months?
Let's go through for each of the, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to have Ruby provide us with the numbers. No, those are line item reductions, not the actual. And I think I have it here. Give me just one moment. We'll give you the recap for each of those. So for the police department, it's 107,000. I'm sorry, 75.
I'm sorry. For the police chief?
Okay, interim police chief configuration results in a bottom line savings of $175,000 for 12 months. The interim assignment, the configuration that's proposed for Parks and Recreation, that total value is? $67,000. And the last area that is yet to be described is for the library. So the library is a different set of circumstances than the other two. At the library, we don't have a retirement, but what we do have is something that a number of other departments have in recent years, as we've leaned the organization and reduced personnel. We have fewer and fewer number two positions in any of our departments. And so as we looked at the services that we're providing and the effect that it has to have these positions filled and their service level consequences, it is proposed in these assumptions that we do move forward with a reduction in force for the library, which will involve the layoff of our assistant library director. That total cost is at $84,000, and that's the fully burdened cost. All those figures that were described, it's the bottom line after every set of changes relative to personnel is accomplished. That is the manner in which we achieved the final number. So when you're looking at this difference between 852,506 and 391,640, these numbers represent the line item reductions at each of the department levels, and then as described, the department restructuring in PD, Parks and Recreation, and the library. I would be remiss to not point out that, we've gone through a lot of changes in recent years. I joined the city in fiscal year 2012. At that time, the city had the benefit of 121.25 general fund supported positions. Since that time, the city lost its redevelopment agency. We went through one utility user tax renewal, one successful renewal, and we have reduced our full-time numbers as a result. You can see these cuts are significant over the last 6 or 7 years. They are definitely a reflection of the city's general funds position. I will note for the fiscal year that we're in, due to mid-year budget reviews and concerns about the future of the utility user tax, we, as a city, did not move forward with adding to the number of permanent full-time employees. So although the 118.75 positions are noted for fiscal year 2017, we actually have not hired for all of those positions for concern that as our costs may not keep pace with our revenues, that we won't be able to retain those personnel into the future. So trying to do that look ahead, do our best to provide the highest level of service, but be realistic about the revenues that are coming in to support these activities for the long haul.
So just a question, the 115.8 in 2016 has pretty much carried over into 2017, so we're at that level, is that what we're
That's what our
talking about?
actual is,
That's what our
but the
actual is.
positions
The
that
three
did not.
positions that we talked about, I think, in the council meeting.
It's
and everything.
firefighter,
Right.
it's senior
We
center
did not
coordinator,
fill
and
those.
graffiti abatement
So
worker.
they are currently vacant, but it shows 118.
They are backfilled with temporary status employees.
Right, okay.
So these are the full-time permanent, not
Okay.
the.
Temporary status employees or any
Right.
of those, or extra help or whatever we call it.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so where does this land us? We know that council's, very mindful about our general fund reserve and wanting to be sure we're in the best position that we can be. And what we're looking at for the close of 16-17, so come June 30, our projected balance is $2.5 million. For the next fiscal year, based on the assumptions that were presented with these changes, the minimum set aside would be $2.3 million, just under $2.3 million.
Okay.
Okay, so keeping in mind that 15% set aside is $2.3 million. We're going to come back to that number here in a moment. It will be significant. So we definitely see some challenges ahead, but we see a pathway to working through it. We know as our numbers decrease, our turnaround times, our ability to be responsive and have people walk in the door and meet with the person they're looking for, same day types of accessibility, that there are trade-offs. Our administrative capacity, when you lose a department head, that ability to move items, whether it's purchasing, bidding, making department-level decisions, it really does slow when you don't have a person whose single focus is that department. We also, recognize there are trade-offs for oversight and problem-solving, and getting in front of issues can be more challenging. We will do our very best to distribute the work among fewer staff. We love to do proactive work, but at times when you have fewer bodies, the reactive is much more often the reality of how you can get through the tasks that are ahead of you. We obviously have the need to explain to the public what's going on, and it is encouraging to see so many people here in the audience today to kind of open our books and show we're doing our best to address the needs of the organization and the public's needs first and foremost. So next steps, the question that I have for the council is, are staff and I on track for a bridge solution? We are proposing for that remainder of the balance, $391,640, including the last remaining one of two regional board payments, that we use our general fund reserve. That will reduce the balance of our minimum reserve by $136. This would mean that while our goal is 15% for a general fund reserve set aside, what we'd actually achieve is 13.8 in the budget. And we would bring an action item to the council when the final budget is prepared so that an actual resolution is adopted by the council acknowledging this momentary dip. I do want to just caution with a couple of things that might give you some peace of mind. When we talk about the closing general fund reserve balance that we expect at the end of this year, I want to remind council at this time last year, we decided to earmark some very large ticket items for just in case. And this is outside of the minimum set aside. Those projects have not yet been completed. The two that are largest that come to mind, $500,000 for the Lions Center pool replastering project. We have not gone out to bid. We don't know what the final numbers are, but we are in design. We're getting closer to real numbers. But want to make sure you know that those dollars are still there. It's just they're earmarked for the Lions, and you're going to have to act on it because it's greater than $15,000. So you're still going to have chances to weigh in or say, we can't do it, or delay, or there's a number of strategies that could be employed. So want to make sure I make note of Lions Center pool replastering. The other subject, just as a reminder, last year we had a great presentation from the fire department talking about the breathing apparatuses. We have not been successful in our first attempt at a grant application, but numerous cycles are considered. We didn't make it in the first and second, but that doesn't mean we won't make it in a future round. And it doesn't mean we don't continue to seek outside resources that have nothing to do with the general fund set-aside amount to explore how we might be able to accomplish that project. So while the figure is shown as $2.5 million, I've already described to you another $800,000 that we know we have in the bank, on the books, that has yet to be expended and requires future city council action to support. So really the question for council today is, have we followed your instructions? Do you want to see something different? As it's scheduled, the next time the council will see the general fund, it will be packaged along with all of our enterprise and special funds. So at that time, we normally do an overview presentation, not a whole lot of extensive detail. If you want the presentation to come back in a different form, we're happy to present it and meet your needs and expectations. So with that, do you have questions or comments?
Questions or comments from the council? Anybody have any questions?
No, just I appreciate the explanation, especially regarding the proposed projects that have not been completed. So there's that money that's earmarked but not used. So that helps explain. The other thing too, with respect to the general fund reserve, I realize that you're looking at reducing the reserve amount, and I should remind council and maybe even the public here that, we've been well beyond the 15% in the past. So it's, it's going to fluctuate to some degree, and that's what really the general fund reserve is for. So utilizing it when we need to. So it looks like there's a few options. I also appreciate the fact that, the gap that we first talked about, over $800,000, has been significantly reduced, and you've had to be very creative with staff and the leadership team, so I appreciate that.
Also, and just to add on the other thing, and I appreciate the flexibility. I think that was a part that's, I think, incredibly important, as it was already discussed in the original workshop that we've had on general funds. So the flexibility of the future of the utility user tax, I think has full consideration in here. So I'm very comfortable with that, and again, commend staff, Rosanna, and everyone to do the work that you've done to bring this back. So to me, I appreciate the fact that this is a bridge. We're hoping in the future that there's definitely some improvements, including paying off our fine in a couple more installments. There's other things that I think can help bolster on the revenue side of the house. So hopefully we see those things. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. No questions.
Thank you, Rosanna, to you and the staff. I know it takes a lot to try to figure out how to keep our budget afloat. There's a lot more coming, I'm sure, so congratulations on getting us at least to here. You and Ruby. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Rosanna. I just want to say that budgets are kind of living documents. They change, they move. Revenues may increase, expenses may go down. There may be different things that happen. Revenue will move up and down. I think as we look at this year, hopefully we'll be in better shape than what we were last year. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen. There's a lot of revenue that can come to the city, and grants also are there also. So I think that overall, in looking at this, I think these are some good moves that we're making. I think it's some interim stuff that we're doing that we may need to revisit fairly quickly, and so we'll be looking at that. I think I appreciate all the work put in by the city staff on this document, on the budget and everything else, and all your work on this. And I do think that we're in a solid position, even though we are reducing our reserve set aside. That's still a projected figure also, and that could change as we move along. And as we've been surprised in previous years, that's gone up and down a little bit too. And I think there have been years where we've used more of the reserve than what we're going to contemplate using for this year, if that's even necessary. And so in talking with you about that, I think that that's very clear. I want the public to understand that we're very fiscally conservative, and I think the staff and Ruby and yourself have been fiscally conservative in terms of setting this budget. So I think that will be reflective in the future also. So I think that when the council as a whole, I think, looks at that from a fiscally conservative, we don't want to spend money on things that we can't afford, and we'd also want to make sure that, though, that we create a level of service in the city that satisfies the citizens up to a point, and realizing that we do have some limitations on our revenue, especially in the general fund. Some of the other revenues are not quite as critical as that, but the general fund appears to be more and more critical as we move along through the years. But I thank you all for that, and I hope the general public appreciates the work that you've done on all of this.
Thank you very much. So we will move forward with preparation of the overall budget and use the budget presentation for the overall as a chance to highlight major features and then anything that may have evolved from the last special and enterprise funds workshop to present. We'll use that time for that purpose.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Item 5B, discussion and potential action regarding preparation of support opposition letters for various legislative matters. That's 102 to 115 of your agenda.
Mayor Couchman, this particular item was a subject of extensive discussion at city and county managers recently, and there were a couple of areas that I would like to draw your attention to. One is referenced as SB 649, and I've included in the packet a recommended position from the California League of Cities. So SB 649 provides that a small cell is a permitted use on city street poles. The city has been in receipt of a number of inquiries, and from what I understand, a number of our local agencies, valley-wide, have as well. What this piece of legislation does is remove city discretion on what the aesthetics may look like. So this would allow a provider to simply come and attach onto a city facility with or without our feedback. So it is requested that the council consider a comment letter that would be submitted on behalf of the council under the mayor's signature regarding this particular subject of SB 649.
In opposition?
In opposition.
Right. I think we're in I think
so.
probably.
One area that may be familiar to folks that happened recently, when the gas company placed, it was only 4 poles citywide to address meter reading activity. The level of feedback was actually quite extensive. Even though they went to great lengths to try to mirror the type of pole that was previously there, and so the local control element is really the message point here. Want to also note that a trailer bill is circulating that has to do with retaining local control for cannabis businesses. This would remove the city's ability to allow or act to allow sales of, commercial sales of marijuana. So it is recommended that local control be respected and that the city move forward with preserving a local control message as it relates to cannabis sales.
I think that's appropriate.
And then the third area of quite a bit of discussion, not only with the cities, but also our county partners, was with reference to the gutting of the Community Development Block Grant Program, specifically Economic Development Program funds. And in this particular area, there was extensive discussion about whether or not the state level changes are a precursor to federal level changes, but regardless, this is a pot of funds that has been of great value to the city of Brawley. We do have to compete, but as a non-entitlement community, but this is the manner in which we have achieved funding for a new fire apparatus, as well as approximately 1.5 million in sewer manhole rehabilitation activities. So the loss of this type of revenue would mean that we'd be left to just work with our own local financial resources. And, there's a lot of challenges that come with CDBG administration as we've brought items to the council regarding the use of program income funds and the tightening of controls for what is an eligible project. The city had some changes that we experienced in our average household income, that our average median income, that makes any activity that we undertake for the public as a whole is no longer eligible. We're only able to use the funds for very, very targeted purposes, whether they're homeless, veterans, or a senior population. So what we had once used as a financing option for things that brought services to the whole city, now we have to narrow it to only a specific portion of the city. And these measures really remove critical resources to the city. So it is staff's suggestion that the council consider moving forward with submitting comment letters in at least these 3 areas, but of course, if there are other areas that have caught the attention of council based on the League of Cities hot bill list or any other resources you have, that was the purpose for including this item on the agenda.
I would be happy to sign those. The council's pretty much in agreement.
Yep.
Right, just so,
We're all in
it's
agreement.
opposed SB 649, then the trailer bill to Proposition 64, and then finally the opposition to the elimination of CDBG program, right?
Okay,
Right.
yeah, that's it. I'd be happy to sign those. On behalf of the council.
Okay, we'll move forward with preparation of those letters. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Going right along to item number 6, city council member reports. And I want to start, I think, with George tonight.
Thank you. Well, I'll try to keep it real short. I was able to participate at a candidates forum as a moderator the other day for one of the IID districts, and so that was interesting. There was a lot of audience questions, so a lot of discussion ensued. But 3 of the 4 candidates that are running for the position were present, and it was interesting to be able to participate. That's the second or third time that I've been able to do that, and It's always enjoyable. So also met briefly along with Councilmember Wharton with a group that's looking to develop the Lucky Ranch subdivision. They showed us some renderings today, and it looks like an interesting project. And we'll leave it at that until they present something. But also met along with Councilmember Wharton with the Chamber of Commerce Executive Director. And as I mentioned previously, I'd been working on something for quite some time. It was a business event to spark interest out here, and we came up with some pretty good ideas today. I think once it's finalized, I'll bring it back, and I think it's going to be a fantastic event for people throughout the valley, but it's going to be here in Brawley. So I also met with the group that is looking again at the old water plant development. I know I introduced the topic last time. We had a little bit more of a discussion, and it looks like at some point in the near future, they'll present something to council. So that'll come before us. And of course, went to the SCAG conference and participated there. And last but not least, was also able to attend the Dancing with the Stars, which is entertaining. So that's my report for today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief as well. I won't reiterate what Councilmember Nava just mentioned, but outside of that, the SCAG annual conference was is always insightful, great opportunity again to interact with a lot of our Southern California agencies out there, and you'll see some familiar faces as well. Outside of that, I just wanted to note this was a little bit work-related, but always great information. I attend the annual Emergency Medical Administrators Conference, and always in reference to kind of the work that Chief Peraza's working on. For example, of us going ALS, we all actually work with the same agencies across the state of California. So California is very unique when it comes to our EMS system, but again, got great information and insightful there. My final thing I just want to touch on, I know May 15th was National Peace Officers Memorial Day, so we had a great honor today, obviously honoring a retiring chief, but also just remembering the men and women that wear the uniform every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If our interim chief could please pass on acknowledgement, at least from myself, I'm sure echoed by council, but we appreciate what they do, but we do remember those that have given the sacrifice. And I believe once a year, for those of you who haven't attended, there's a great memorial that takes place down by the courthouse. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Norma?
I'll attempt to, well, maybe I should pass.
You do want to? It's up to you.
I did attend the SCAG conference, which I found to be very enlightening, and I think after attending the conference, I found that that we as council people here and working with our staff and city manager are on the right track. They talked a lot about engaging the business community on things, on what the community wants and needs. So I thought that was something that we're already actually doing. I talked about housing needs and some ideas. I actually had quite a few things to say, but I think I'll pass. The only other thing is that we were able to attend the ribbon cutting and grand opening supporting our local businesses at Tasty Fusion over on E Street. And so that was a very nice event, and hope all of you get the opportunity to go and support any of the new businesses in town. Thank you.
I also attended the SCAG, which was the regional conference, and there was a lot of interesting things talked about on the very last day, which did kind of push us to talking more about how we can get more businesses and be more business friendly. They also stated that if we needed anything, that SCAG was there to help us on any kind of business, if we needed some classes, if we needed to be taught on how to bring businesses in, and also on the housing part. So I was really happy to hear that, that they're out there for us and that they're willing to come over and teach us quite a few things. Also, I did go to the Tasty Fusion, the grand opening, ribbon cutting. I have to say the food was super great. They have some really great cooks there, and I was surprised to see how much food different kinds of food is coming out of Tasty Fusion. Also, I was called to speak at the Memorial Day at the cemetery on the 29th, so I'm honored to do that. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, my report, I attended the SCAG meeting along with the other council members. It was a good meeting. I think most of the value in that meeting comes from networking with a lot of our peer groups out there, the businesses that deal with city issues, talking with them. IID was there. There were some other entities that were there. I do notice that sometimes the SCAG focus is more on the larger cities rather than the smaller towns and like we are. And I did suggest that in the evaluation for them, that they do some things for the smaller cities that are more focused on what we can do. Some of the other things, we did receive an award from ICTC, received an award for a project that they've done. And so that was an interesting part of that. At a luncheon, they did receive a nice award, and that was neat for Imperial County to receive something of that nature at that type of meeting. A lot of people there, a large facility, and a lot of things going on. And so I did enjoy that. I did rush back to go to the ribbon cutting for Ojeda Industries on that Friday, and it was Friday morning. And so I rushed back on Thursday evening and then went to the ribbon cutting at Ojeda Industries. Very nice business over in our industrial park. Very, very neatly set up and a very nice celebration and ribbon cutting for them. Excellent food. As you know, I'm a fan of excellent food, and they had some really great food there. And so that was neat. And there were quite a few people there, mostly people that do business with that business. And so there were a lot of people that came in for that purpose, and that was neat. Dancing with the Stars, I attended that. I am a board member of the Imperial Valley Regional Occupational Program Community Foundation, so we're responsible for putting on that event. Probably a banner year for us. We made a lot of money on that event for scholarships for the youth, and we'll be handing out scholarships this year to all the high schools here in Imperial County. And we made a lot of money on that event, and we appreciate the support from the community. We probably had 650 people there. We had a wide variety of sponsors, and it was a really nice event. I also attended an El Toro annual pasta party at the Stockman's Club. That was a neat little event that they put on every year, and I was able to attend that. I also attended the Imperial Valley Community Foundation's Evening on the Green. It was a concert put on at Brock Asparagus Packing Facility. Arturo Sandoval, a trumpet player, was the premier entertainment event, and he did an excellent job. They had excellent food, quite a few attendees, and so that was a real neat event to go to, and so I did that this weekend. I did also attend today the swearing in of a new officer, a lady officer that we have working for us now, and I had the pleasure of attending that swearing in ceremony today, and it went very, very well. And with that, that's all I have to report. So we will go to City Manager's report.
So just two brief items. The first is that on Thursday, the city will be a host location for Bike to Work Day. This is a valley-wide and Mexicali Valley-wide event. There will be a resource table set up at the Brawley Transit Transfer Station between 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and goodie bags will be there for visitors who are on their way to work or school by bicycle. So we encourage anyone who's interested and
Get your bikes in.
committed to safe travel. There's some very strong messaging around the Go Human campaign and safe travel of folks who are not in cars, but people who are walking or biking in different parts of our community. So this is part of the month of May's National Bike Month, and we were excited to join with ICTC and the Velo Club. Some very, very active members of the Velo Club that are residents of the city of Brawley came forward and said, can we work with you this year once again to be sure everyone knows the safe travel of bikes. It's important for motorists to recognize that we're on the road too.
As the mayor, I'd like to appoint surrogates, all the rest of the council. I won't be there on the bike, I'm gonna be busy, so I appoint the rest of the council as my surrogates.
Sam works in Alpine, hopefully Hopefully your beach cruiser will make it.
Yeah, my beach cruiser.
We will
Just
also
downhill.
be releasing a press, we have a media release that will be going out this evening, and I have copies today for our members of the media. We are highlighting the the bicycle lane improvements that have occurred in the city in recent years. Most recently, this fiscal year, the striping work that was done on K Street, in addition to a number of other high-visibility streets throughout our city. Wanted to also remind council that this week, the Economic Summit and General Assembly is taking place. It's co-convened by Pearl Valley Economic Development Corporation and Imperial County Transportation Commission. It will take place at the Holtville Country Club, or the Palms,
Imperial Palms.
Imperial Palms Resort.
But it also has Barbara Worth on there. There's
Yeah.
a big sign
Says
that
that.
it's
Yeah.
coming back.
So I will be there for a portion of the event, and as I understand it, a number of council members are scheduled to go as well, so we will be well represented. And with that, I have nothing further to report unless there are
Okay.
questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No? City Attorney report.
I'll save it for closed session, but gallery night, 6:30 on Friday.
Okay.
Del Rio.
At Del Rio. Okay. City Clerk.
Just a reminder of next week's league dinner.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you can let us-
I did receive a notice that my Form 700 was filed too.
Yes,
So-
I did too.
So I did receive that notice through, I think email, I think it was email. Okay, so thank you.
Where, I'm sorry, where is it?
Oh, eucalyptus?
Oh, okay.
Schoolhouse.
I haven't looked at it.
Okay. Okay, and with that, we will move on to item number 10, which is our closed session. I'd like to thank all the audience for being here, and everybody that participated in the meeting.